The late afternoon sun beat down on the San Angelo rodeo grounds, baking the red dust into a fine, suffocating powder that rose with every stir. Ethan Miller, his face a landscape of sun-weathered lines and unspoken burdens, adjusted the brim of his worn cowboy hat. He was here as a volunteer veterinarian, a ghost in a world that once defined him, a world he'd been forced to abandon. The murmur of the crowd, the distant roar of the chutes all felt like a discordant symphony, a constant reminder of what he'd lost. Today, however, a new, more potent anxiety was brewing. The arena hummed with anticipation for the next bull. Colossus, a beast of legend, notorious for his untamed fury and the trail of injured riders he left in his wake. They called him unrideable, a force of nature. From the safety of the perimeter fence, Ethan's gaze locked onto the immense animal in the holding pen. Colossus was a masterpiece of muscle and raw power, his coat a deep, mottled brown, eyes like polished obsidian. A chilling familiarity began to prick at Ethan's memory, a sensation akin to déjà vu, yet far more profound. Then it hit him with the force of a physical blow. 11 years ago, on his family's struggling farm, he'd found a tiny, shivering calf, abandoned and near death. He'd nursed it back to life with desperate, sleepless nights, bottle-feeding it, speaking to it in soft, reassuring tones, teaching it the meaning of human touch and trust. He'd named him Toro. Toro wasn't just another animal. He was a companion, a shadow that followed Ethan through the fields, a symbol of hope in increasingly desperate times. Their bond had been a quiet, powerful thing, forged in the solitude of early mornings and the shared rhythm of farm life. But the farm, generations old, was suffocating under a mountain of debt. Ethan fought with every fiber of his being, but the market turned, the bank called, and finally he was forced to sell off everything, land, equipment, and every single animal, including Toro. The memory of that day was a raw wound that had never truly healed. He could still see Toro, then a gangly yearling, being led onto the transport truck, his large, innocent eyes fixed on Ethan, a silent plea in their depths. The sight had shattered something inside him, a silent promise to himself that he would never again allow himself to grow so attached, never again feel that searing pain of involuntary separation. Now, standing mere yards from this formidable beast, Ethan saw it all. The peculiar white blaze on the bull's forehead, the way his left ear tilted ever so slightly, a faint, almost imperceptible scar just beneath his dark eye, marks he remembered vividly. It was Toro. His Toro grown into this terrifying embodiment of rage. A wave of gut-wrenching disbelief washed over him, quickly followed by a crushing, nauseating guilt. How had his gentle calf, his trusting companion, ended up here, twisted into this instrument of destruction? The announcer's voice boomed over the loudspeakers, jolting Ethan back to the present. And now, ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for the one, the only, the mighty Colossus. Get ready for a show, folks. Ethan's past, laden with regret and sorrow, was about to violently collide with his present, in the most public and undeniably dangerous arena imaginable. The weight of his lost promise felt heavier than ever before. The chute gates crashed open with a deafening clang, and Colossus exploded into the arena. A whirlwind of muscle and fury, he snorted, pawed the ground, and bucked with a primal power that seemed to shake the very earth. Rider after rider launched themselves onto his broad back, only to be flung off with brutal, unceremonious force, landing in the dusty arena floor like discarded dolls. Ethan watched, his stomach churning, a cold dread coiling in his chest. He knew, with an absolute certainty that transcended logic, that this bull wasn't inherently vicious. This raw, untamed rage was born of something else entirely, perhaps fear, perhaps pain, perhaps even a deep-seated confusion. And a part of him, a part he desperately tried to suppress, knew that he might be, however indirectly, responsible for it. As Colossus spun and bucked, his enormous body a blur of motion, his eyes, wild and rimmed with a startling red, swept across the fence line. For a fleeting, almost imperceptible fraction of a second, their gazes met. A tiny flicker, a minuscule pause in the bull's relentless, destructive dance. Was it true recognition, or was it merely Ethan's own desperate, yearning hope projecting itself onto the animal? He couldn't be sure, but that brief connection ignited a spark of resolve within him. Then the unthinkable happened. After another valiant but ultimately failed ride, a young cowboy lay motionless in the churned-up dust of the arena. An eerie silence descended upon the vast crowd, a collective gasp. The emergency response team, poised and ready, rushed towards the fallen rider. But Colossus, still agitated, surprisingly stood protectively over the injured man, effectively blocking anyone from approaching. His stance was not aggressive, but rather a stubborn, unyielding barrier. Fear rippled through the stands, then a wave of astonished murmurs. This wasn't typical bull behavior. It was almost possessive, an act of strange, protective defiance. The other cowboys and handlers hesitated, unsure how to proceed without further agitating the massive animal, knowing one wrong move could turn the situation from tense to catastrophic. Ethan, driven by an instinct far stronger than any logical thought, began to walk slowly, deliberately towards the imposing bull. He could hear the frantic whispers from the crew, the shocked exclamations from the crowd, pleas for him to stop, to reconsider. He ignored them all, his focus singularly fixed on the powerful animal before him. "Toro," he murmured, his voice low, a barely audible whisper as he stepped closer. "Toro, it's me, Ethan." The bull's massive ears twitched, a subtle movement that went unnoticed by most, but not by Ethan. Slowly, deliberately, Colossus lowered his colossal head, not in a charge, but in a slow, almost inquisitive gesture. Ethan remembered vividly how Toro, as a calf, used to nudge his hand for scratches behind his ears, a sign of affection and trust. Cautiously, with a trembling hand but unwavering resolve, he extended his open palm towards the bull's imposing snout. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the sudden suspended silence of the arena. For a tense, agonizing moment, the entire arena held its breath, a collective pause in time. Then Colossus, the feared, untamable rodeo bull, slowly, gently, nudged his immense head into Ethan's outstretched hand, letting out a soft, rumbling sound deep in his chest. A sound of recognition. The crowd erupted, a cacophony of gasps, cheers, and bewildered applause. The man who had raised him after 11 long, arduous years had reached through the layers of pain and rage and found a spark of the gentle creature he once knew, proving that some bonds are truly unbreakable. The aftermath of the arena spectacle was a whirlwind of flashing cameras, frantic interviews, and probing questions. "How did you know the bull? What's your story? Was it a miracle?" Ethan, still reeling from the emotional intensity of the reunion, answered with a quiet humility, explaining their past connection, the heart-wrenching story of his family farm's financial ruin, and the painful, unavoidable sale of Toro. His raw honesty resonated deeply. Amidst the chaos, a kind-hearted animal rescue organization, whose representatives had been in the stands and witnessed the extraordinary scene firsthand, approached him. Deeply moved by the profound, undeniable bond between man and animal, they offered a lifeline. They proposed taking Colossus, who was now unequivocally just Toro once more, to a sprawling natural sanctuary where he could live out his days in peace, far from the stress, noise, and confinement of the rodeo circuit, never to face a shoot again. Initially, Ethan hesitated, a deep-seated sense of unworthiness gnawed at him. After all these years, after the pain of their separation, did he truly deserve Toro's trust, or this unexpected second chance? The guilt of his past decision, however unavoidable, still lingered like a bitter taste. But the image of Toro, calm and gentle in his hand, pushed him forward. He agreed. A few weeks later, after much logistical planning and careful transport, Ethan visited Toro at the sanctuary. He found him in a vast sun-drenched pasture, a mosaic of vibrant green grass and wildflowers, grazing peacefully alongside other rescued animals. Retired horses, a few contented goats, even a grumpy old donkey. Toro, free from the constraints of the arena, looked different. His muscles seemed less tensed, his eyes softer, less guarded. At the sound of Ethan's familiar voice, Toro slowly ambled over, his massive form moving with an easy grace. He nudged Ethan affectionately with his head, a soft rumbling sound vibrating through his chest. There was no need for words, only a quiet, profound understanding passing between them, a silent forgiveness that transcended the years and the pain. This wasn't a miraculous cure for all of Ethan's past regrets, nor did it erase the difficult memories of his farm's loss. But it was a profound, tangible step towards healing, a balm for a long, festering wound. Inspired by the sanctuary's mission and his renewed connection with Toro, Ethan began volunteering there regularly, his veterinary skills proving invaluable. He found a new quiet purpose in caring for these animals, without the crushing pressure of ownership or the gnawing fear of future loss. He helped other rescued creatures find their footing, witnessing their transformations, and in turn, his own heart, once so burdened, slowly began to mend, piece by agonizing piece. The remarkable story of Ethan and Toro spread far beyond the rodeo circuit, becoming a powerful testament to the enduring, unbreakable power of the human-animal bond and the profound possibility of second chances. It wasn't a tale of overcoming a monstrous beast, but rather one of rediscovering the gentle soul within, of forgiveness and of finding redemption not in grand gestures, but in quiet acts of care and connection. Ethan learned that even after years of separation, hardship, and the weight of a broken promise, true connections can endure, transcending time and circumstance. And perhaps most importantly, he realized that true healing often comes not just from being helped, but from extending a helping hand to others, whether they walk on 2 legs or 4. Thank you for watching. If you were moved by Ethan and Toro's extraordinary story, please hit that subscribe button to join our community and never miss another incredible tale of resilience and connection. This story is a dramatized work of fiction, inspired by the profound and often surprising power of human-animal bonds.